Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's City Council meeting. We're going to start with our work session. This is on the 2030 Comprehensive Plan. We will review the process to adopt a new comp plan. Welcome, Pat.
Good morning, Council and Mayor. Pat Young with Planning and Development. Thank you very much for taking the time to hear a little bit about our new comprehensive plan. 2009, to me sounds recent. I was young and handsome like Mr. Melton and Mr. Branch back in that time. But our city has changed enormously, not just me. We have grown by almost 100,000 people. About 20% of our population is larger just in that time period. And the way that the development community, industries, new businesses are looking at Raleigh is different. There's a higher level of demand, there's a higher level of interest, and that's impacting everything we do from a land use perspective, as you all see at every one of your meetings. So a comprehensive plan, as you all will recall, is a vision document. It is not law, but it does set the context for the law, which is in the Unified Development Ordinance. The state statute says it's intended to guide coordinated, efficient, and orderly development. I would say when paired with the UDO, the policies in the comprehensive plan are the DNA of our city, right? It really does produce the outcomes that you see all around you and how our residents are able to access opportunity for both places to live, to work, play, and to raise children. Our commitment to you is to focus on listening to the community, and you're going to hear a lot about that from Bynum. Basically, our first year is going to be focused on listening and engagement to make sure we understand where the community's at. We want it to be a two-way conversation. We're going to bring in outside experts. We're going to talk about the kind of state of play on key areas like stormwater and traffic, and hear what the community concerns are and interests are. But I do want to flag kind of 4 outcomes that staff are endorsing. You'll hear more from Bynum on this. And we're also going to have Emily Sutton, our Housing and Neighborhoods Director, talk a little bit about the Affordable Housing Summit at the end, which is another tool that we're going to use to get feedback to embed in the comprehensive plan. So kind of 4 key themes, and again, I'll turn it over to Bynum, is we really would like the comprehensive plan to tell a story, to be readable and accessible, something that folks can reference and feel like they see where you as council want to lead the city in the future. Right now, it's kind of an encyclopedia of wishes and hopes, and it's great. It's a great plan, and it's got a lot of value. But I think we'd like to really tighten it up and make it something that people can really grab and be kind of inspired by and understand what we're trying to accomplish with our policies. The second is that it addresses and analyzes the opportunities, challenges, complexities, and trade-offs of growth, rather than just a list of aspirations. Right? I think you all are continually confronting these things as you make decisions about zoning cases. We want to use the comp plan process to really engage the community on where do we balance these different interests that everybody wants to promote. The third, I think, is focusing on land use. Prior to 2009, another thing that's changed significantly is the fact that our other departments are doing a lot more planning. Prior to 2009, really, the planning department was the only department doing significant planning. Almost all of our departments now have excellent plans. We want to align with those plans rather than kind of duplicate with those plans. So in areas like housing, stormwater, transportation, what we want to do is look at those other plans, provide alignment, and then hopefully produce greater clarity for you as council, the community at large, and the development community about what type of growth we support, so that hopefully these won't be as contentious. And you did see some of that after the last UDO came in place in 2013. And then finally, keeping up with the cost of growth, right, as reflected in service and infrastructure. There's a perception out there, and we don't want it to become a reality, that new growth is degrading the quality of life for existing residents. I think that's why there's sometimes opposition to change. And so we really want to take a close look at, work closely with Budget and Finance and the manager's office about how we can make sure there's a close nexus between investments that we make in services and infrastructure and growth, so that you can credibly tell the community that we're accommodating that new growth and that it's not taking away from anything that existing residents enjoy today. So thank you for allowing me to give you that overview. I'll turn it over to Bynum for a little deeper dive, and then to Emily.
Thanks, Pat. Bynum Walter, Planning and Development. It's great to be with you all this morning. I feel like I'm like in the waiting lounge at the airport getting ready to go on a really big trip. A really big trip. Can we go to Hawaii? Yeah. It's a metaphor. So if you want me to go to Hawaii, I will go to Hawaii. Did you just ask me to go? Okay, great. Okay, sweet. I'm excited.
Everybody, back to reality. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm really excited this morning to talk with you about the next comprehensive plan for Raleigh. I'm going to talk a little bit about our current plan, the policy context for the new plan, anticipated major themes and goals of the planning process that's ahead for us. I'll also touch briefly on budget, staffing, and schedule, and I'll wrap up with some information about first tasks, and we'll also hear from Housing and Neighborhoods about a first point of collaboration. So it's really good planning practice, but also inherent to our authority to apply zoning regulations to have a comprehensive plan. We can only exercise that authority per state statute if we have an adopted, well-maintained plan. Just like every other city, we get our authority from the state, and we have to keep that plan tight and up to date. Our current plan, as Pat mentioned, was adopted in 2009 and more recently updated in 2019. And just as a reminder, a comprehensive plan is a long-term vision. That's why we're refreshing, because 2030 is no longer a long-term vision. Yikes. But it's a long-term vision for the built environment, includes a map of future land uses for the whole city, looks at a long time horizon, usually about 20 years. And the comprehensive plan is the foundation for our zoning code and other development regulations. The comprehensive plan is a vision and policy document. Think Judith Martin, Miss Manners' advice, right? Aspiration. It articulates how we want things to be, but then regulations such as the UDO are developed and applied to help realize the ideals that we express in the plan. So as I mentioned, our current plan was adopted in 2009. Pat's grayer, I'm older too. But a lot in Raleigh has changed since then, and our organization has changed since then. For one thing, our organization has evolved in the intervening years, and the level of intention and structure around all kinds of planning has increased enormously in the last 14 years. Most notably, the strategic plan sets priorities for a 3 to 5 year horizon. We had no document like that when we made the plan back in 2009. And then the Community Climate Action Plan is our strategy to reduce greenhouse gases by 80% by 2050. Again, that did not exist in 2009. So we have this really a rich variety of planning documents now, things like the Affordable Housing Goals and Consolidated Plan, and then every city department and office has a business plan. So want to just tie into that, connect with that. Just as our organization has been evolving, the practice of land use planning has been changing as well. Now more than ever, best practices are emphasizing multimodal inclusivity, planning for more than just cars, but also for feet, for bikes, for micromobility. And then in response to a nationwide housing shortage, there's a focus on planning for housing diversity, choice, and affordability. Our community needs to include a home for every budget. The field of land use planning has a new perspective on its role in racial equity and sustainability. We are seeing those changing attitudes reflected in the work and structure of our organization, but we're also seeing that in the planning field as well. And then finally, we have seen a global change in virtual participation in work and other aspects of life. And that's already having an impact on the characteristics of development, and we expect that to continue to shape and form and change development patterns. We expect that community engagement will shape the development and outcomes of the new plan, but there's already some we have to look ahead and think about what might happen in that process, right? And there are already some obvious themes and goals. At its heart, the comprehensive plan is a land use plan. A logical part of developing a new plan will be to assess and confirm our current land use vision. Since 2009, the vision has been that 60% of our growth will happen in designated corridors and centers. And more recently, we have said that 80% of that will happen in transit corridors. The growth framework map, the urban form map, and future land use map work together to illustrate and direct growth this way. Those are key tools that we will need to review and refresh in developing a new plan. Two themes that we expect to be instrumental in shaping the plan are racial equity and sustainability and resilience. The 2009 plan does not directly acknowledge the impacts that land use regulations have had on racial equity, but we know that there's a connection. We know. In land use, this theme applies most directly to housing and business opportunities. The current comprehensive plan already acknowledges sustainability and resilience, but as I've already mentioned, our organization's thinking and work on these issues has evolved and developed over time, most notably through the Community Climate Action Plan. So both of these themes we know will be central to developing the new plan. Development of a new plan presents an opportunity for a fresh take on the basics. For example, we want to be thoughtful about the length of the new document, organization of its chapters, its final format, as well as the breadth of topics. I've mentioned the gains and other citywide planning efforts. We will want to reference and align with those endeavors while avoiding duplication or repetition. This process also presents an opportunity for citywide conversations about development topics that have long been sensitive in Raleigh, things like NCODs, use and height transitions, as well as location and scale of neighborhood commercial uses. A really important, I can't really stress this enough, a really important goal of the process for developing the new plan will be articulating a clear, simple message. Probably everyone in this room has read Goodnight Moon. If you have read it once, you have read it 10 times, right? And you know what it's about.
500.
Also, yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. It's 32 pages. The graphics are really coherent. It's very on message. You know what I'm saying. On the other hand, I'm guessing not everyone in this room has read War and Peace, and I'm guessing no one has read it twice. Okay? Just for scale, the comprehensive plan right now is more like War and Peace. And it's confusing to people. It's obtuse, right? And so how can we make this more accessible, more transparent, frankly, more enjoyable for all of us, right? Distilling that content and that message down is going to be hard work. It's going to be an intense process. There's a reason the document is so long right now, right? Everybody's favorite page is in there. And so how do we get to a more unified, simplified message, easy and clear to understand? Fundamental to a plan that takes serious racial equity and sustainability and resilience is a process that centers engagement. Hearing from many voices that represent the breadth of our community and valuing that input will be top priority. From past experience, we know that an effective engagement employs a wide variety of tools and techniques to meet our community where they are: planned and pop-up events, online meetings, online surveys, mailings, yard signs, all the things. Of course, we will be using all those familiar tools. I'm also really excited, we are all really excited about the opportunity for creativity to expand that toolkit. Setting the table for effective engagement requires thought and care, and so we know upfront that we will be offering a lot of refreshments, a lot of childcare, as well as translation services. Sometimes in our municipal attitude about cost saving, we get thin with the hospitality. And we gotta be generous with that in this process. Thank you. You have already funded the comprehensive plan. You've already budgeted $900,000 for us to use to develop the project. We anticipate that as the process plays out over time, there will be regular touch points with council at major project milestones throughout the process leading up to your review and adoption. So how are we going to get this done? All hands on deck from planning. This is a big initiative. We anticipate that everyone in planning and development will contribute. Important resources from our department will include the lead project manager, who will really be the face of the project. We also have good expertise in-house in engagement and land use planning. This is bigger than planning and development, though. We're anticipating that we will have coordination and collaboration from every city department and program. Everybody's going to be, we all have to work on this together, just like the strategic plan. We've started some of the internal conversations already with strategy and innovation, the Office of Sustainability and Community Engagement. And then we have a really rich, resource-rich organization, but we will need technical expertise from outside the organization. We anticipate supplementing staff resources with consulting resources around probably some additional engagement, just recognizing that that will take everything we will give it, right? Racial equity, we have an excellent resource in the Department of Equity and Inclusion, but looking for a bigger pool of resource there. Those folks have full-time jobs already, right? And so we want more resource for that. Probably market analysis, and then also infrastructure and service sufficiency. Pat talked to you about the cost of growth. That's one that we're thinking very seriously about. So we've been doing a little bit of work. We're getting ready. We've been packing our suitcase before we go to the airport. Some of the stuff we've been doing already, we have been studying other recently completed projects and efforts that are ongoing. We are in dialogue with folks in Memphis, Richmond, Charlotte, Fort Worth, and Seattle, among others, and we're going to keep talking to other jurisdictions that are doing similar work. We're also, I mentioned this a little bit already, we're also thinking a lot about how we will use technology to help us make a fantastic new plan. Thinking about how web and mobile options can help us connect with more folks, how virtual tools can facilitate engagement, and in the end, how we publish the plan. We moved from paper to print-free in 2019, and right now we use the flipping book model online. Will that be the way? Will it be something else? Just really trying to be thoughtful about, from the get-go, what that's going to look like. We are also gearing up for a community inventory. So important to the development of a new comprehensive plan is understanding where we are today. Most communities undertake an inventory at the outset of a plan. We did just that back in 2009. That product then was a static PDF. This go round, we have a vision about how we can look at this to make it more dynamic so that this first effort sets us up with metrics that we can use to assess the effectiveness of the plan over time, to really track that. Again, going back to Pat's comments, thinking about the trade-offs of choices that we're making, this tool should be really useful to us in that. And then also in, again, that question about how costs of growth work. What are the impacts and choices that we're making there? So really trying to set ourselves up with a good toolkit to assess not just the development process of the plan, but once the plan is adopted, the effectiveness of the plan. And then we want to align with other city efforts that are collecting and tracking quantitative information. So strategic plan, community climate action plan, and then we also, but wanting to do that coordination, but also recognizing the comprehensive plan is about land use, and so we need to be focused on land use metrics, really putting those at the forefront. The last thing I want to talk about this morning is a first round of community conversations that we are planning to kick off development of the new plan. This will be an event series covering major topics of interest to the Raleigh community. We have identified a half dozen topics to focus the conversation around and expect equity and climate to be intertwined in each of these. The purpose of these events is to engage the community and also get folks talking to each other. So for each of these topics, we're anticipating a series of events. a State of the City talk that highlights where things stand in Raleigh today, really expert information coming from staff from within our organization, combining that with an exciting and dynamic speaker who provides context and perspective on the issue, thinking bigger than Raleigh. Raleigh's really important, but we can learn from other folks. And then those two events paired with more interactive activities. So one is a designed and facilitated community discussion so that folks have a chance to share their ideas and hear each other's ideas. And then ask a planner events on each of these topics so that folks can ask follow-up questions. We can hear, a lot of times we learn about really important expertise in the community when we have that chance for one-on-one conversation. So that's really important to us. So we're already collaborating with Housing and Neighborhoods on the Housing Choice and Affordability event, and I'm gonna hand it over to Emma now to tell you more about the Housing Summit that we're working on, and then she and I will both be available for questions.
Thanks, Bynum. Council, Mayor, nice to be here. Emma Sutton, Housing and Neighborhoods. Sorry, I forgot how to be up here for 1 second, but I'm back. So far, we have an Affordable Housing Summit Planning Committee that we have put together between the Planning Department and the Housing Department. We have tentatively scheduled for Saturday, August 17th at the Raleigh Convention Center. The attendance is open to everyone, and the topics include homelessness as a housing problem, Affordable Housing 101, affordable rental development, and then innovative tools, and really with an emphasis on conversation and activities. So our goals that we've set forth here are to educate and inform residents about affordable housing strategies, engagement, so creating a space for a dialogue about housing needs in the community, as well as innovation. Here's our draft agenda, and this all is taken from the February 2nd manager's update. So all this information was sent out on February 2nd. So our draft agenda so far is really to do what we're thinking is a progressive model, since we anticipate members of the public being here who are not housing experts. We really felt like doing a model where everyone is a part of the same thread and conversation would be a good way to go. We're open to feedback on that, of course. So we do have Greg Colburn tentatively scheduled to give our opening session, which his book is Homelessness as a Housing Problem. So we were very excited about that. We're going to talk about Affordable Housing 101. Then we're going to go into a 201 session. So really just kind of progressively increasing knowledge and awareness as we go along. We're going to talk about, have a panel on innovation in affordable housing, and then have those facilitated roundtable discussions for community input for the comp plan. So the topics and goals overlap here. A key component of the Affordable Housing Summit is creating an environment in which attendees' voices and opinions can be heard and reflected in the city's future plans. So we're really excited that the summit coincides with the city's comprehensive planning. At the summit, city staff will be gathering resident feedback through guided conversation, a survey, and many more ways we anticipate. So the conference planning team welcomes ideas and questions from council. Our next steps are here. So the planning team will continue to have our planning meetings. We're meeting weekly at this point. We submitted a draft agenda and overview in the manager's update, and we welcome your comments and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, we'll start with questions on the comp plan process and go from there. Okay. Councilmember Jones?
I'm really excited to see, first of all, the work you put into this, but also talking about community engagement aspect, because I know you guys did an amazing job last time of getting people involved and together. Is there a way as we move forward to use the last round of engagement as a benchmark of how we can exceed those numbers, how, whether that's events, but people, so we can quantify, hey, we've spoken to, not only did we host 10 events, or, I know you'll host more, but just using 10, but we can quantify that and say we reached 250 people, so that as we do this in the future, it's getting more and more and more, and I'm just throwing numbers out at you. But that way, when residents are like, I didn't hear about it, because that's going to happen. There are going to be people who don't hear about it, but we can tell them this is the percentage of people that we've reached and why we felt this was the decision that reflected the community.
Yeah, I think using the 2009 process as a benchmark is an interesting idea. I think we also would want to look at demographics of the city and look at how we're doing in engaging geographically across the city, also with sort of different facets of the population, renters versus owners, by age, by income, those sorts of things. As you know, it's really voluntary what information people offer us about themselves, and so that's always hard to quantify. One of the things we have been talking a little bit about is the idea of a statistically significant group for engagement and dialogue, rather than the community leader group, which often is sort of self-identified. We do try to benchmark that to demographics in a project area, but looking at the possibility of a statistically significant cohort to work with us through the life of the plan development, just recognizing that self-identified, self-initiated engagement from the community is often uneven in how it represents the community.
Great. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Patton?
Hi, thanks for all of this. It's going to be an exciting time. A couple of things that came to mind that might already be on your radar or your plan, but I think are worth bringing up. I wonder if y'all are considering partnering with public schools from the collegiate level all the way down, just thinking that the plan we create now will be for them, right? And so having them involved in the planning process could be really important. And I think also those might be voices we've never brought to the table before. So anyway, just throwing out that.
Yeah, that is actually was part of the Newbern plan. We had great interaction with Enloe. We worked with Washington in the Dix Edge area study and looking for those opportunities in the southern and western corridor stationary planning efforts that we're doing right now. I would expect we would pursue youth engagement. Absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be cool. And I think I loved the idea of like a simple and digestible message. I do think the comp plan reads like an encyclopedia now, and I love the idea of it reading like Goodnight Moon. So I think that's great. As we think about how we like push this out to people who might be more casual consumers of city business, I think about how we reach like the 1 minute social media consumer. Like how do we get on TikTok and Instagram? And I say this with like an asterisk on the legal sensitivities, but like maybe like influencers is an untapped market for us. So maybe that's something to consider. And then I see Nadia in the back. But one thing I talked with community engagement about that might be useful tools here, even to like debut. I think simulations are really useful, and technology has advanced to make like digital simulations available to people. Yeah. And then there's this tool that I've learned about recently from a constituent called, what are they called? Oh my gosh, sorry. Citizen assemblies. Sorry, took me a second. Citizen assemblies, and their tagline is treat it like a wedding, not like jury duty, but it's this constructed group of statistically significant representatives of a community. They meet in a time-bound, they meet for 6 Saturdays consecutively with a real orientation toward pushing out policy recommendations to whichever body they're serving. And they have all these sort of internal governance practices of like any recommendation they push forward has to have like 70% consensus within the group, and so is being used as a tool to build like coalition and consensus across otherwise divisive topics. So I don't know if that might have value here, but I just wanted to offer it because it seems like it could be relevant.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Any other questions? I just want to ask, have you thought anywhere along the line of how AI could be useful in developing
Yes.
this?
Yes, I have. Right? So we get a lot of comments and input in a narrative form. And so it just like at a really basic level, I have said seriously several times, how can the machines help us find the themes in the words, right? Because we get phrases and idea, right? But I think there are lots of other ways.
Yeah,
Like that's just like my,
when you were talking about it, I was like, oh, this is one, like AI scares me a little bit.
agree?
But I thought this is one area where it could actually be helpful.
Yes, yes.
okay.
I think so too.
All
I
right.
think so too. Yes.
Thank you. I
Love it.
I just want to say I really appreciate the energy you brought to this presentation, the humor. I love the whole comparison between Goodnight Moon and War and Peace because, yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So I really just wanted to say job well done. And I think that type of energy is going to bring a lot of people to the table. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Emila? Councilmember Branch and then Harrison.
So not, this is for Emma. Excuse me. It's not really more of a question, but just a thank you for pulling this together. I think it's something that we've talked about for a while as far as a housing summit and working to help share what we're doing, but also listening. And also bringing in experts that are outside of the city that can talk about these are certain things that impact housing and affordability. And I think sharing that information holistically will help level set the entire community and expectations. And also maybe we find something that we still aren't doing that we can do. So again, thank you for pulling this together, and I look forward to attending it in August.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yeah, I just want to echo the thank you for putting this together. I know this is a new thing and you're new to this position, and so taking it on so quickly, just appreciate your work, Emila. And I did want to just make a plug for making sure that we're inviting impacted residents, so folks that, are living perhaps in affordable, housing developments or are, really struggling, with the cost of rent, so that we can have a really robust conversation with impacted communities. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
That's a great note. We will keep that in mind and make sure that happens.
Emila, are we partnering with any of our nonprofit partners on this?
So we have just been in these initial stages of planning, but we are definitely wanting to outreach and do a lot of engagement and get folks aware of it. So, we have not as of yet, but we plan to and are open to feedback as to how, you all feel like they should be involved.
They have the direct contact with residents, but they also have direct knowledge. And I think engaging them in the process could be really helpful how we move forward.
Okay,
Okay,
agreed.
thank you. Councilmember Black?
Similar to the mayor and Councilmember Harrison's point, I think people experiencing homelessness would be a really great space to engage people, and it can be something that is similar to what the alternative response program is doing with just like bringing together all of our different stakeholders that would be involved in it and having them like come and do focus groups and like kind of leveraging those relationships and figuring out like how they could form or help like plan out the summit more. But I'm really excited. I had to figure out what dates. I have it like locked in on my calendar, but that was like a thought that came up when I was listening to both of them talk. So that could be an option for
Yes.
community engagement, like building a focus study group type of thing with partners.
Agreed. And with people with lived experience, I love that idea. Those are all great ideas. Thank you.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yeah, I just want to add, I hope we'll extend invitations to elected officials at the state and federal levels that are working on programs that, we use here in Raleigh. I'd really like to hear from them to see, what is on the horizon and how they can push, hard in their arenas too.
Having a regional HUD representative could be helpful, and if you need a
Definitely.
name and contact info, I'm happy to help with that.
Okay, definitely. We want that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Okay. That was our one item for the work session. We are now going to enter into closed session. I do have a motion for that. A motion is in order to enter closed session pursuant to GS 143-318-11A9 to discuss and take action regarding plans to protect public safety as it relates to existing or potential terrorist activity, and to receive briefings by staff members, legal counsel, or law enforcement or emergency service officials concerning actions taken or to be taken to respond to such activity. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay. We will adjourn until the full meeting. Thank you.